Hello and welcome. This is the first video in a series that will present information on our composting systems here at the Oakland Unified School District's Central Kitchen Instructional Farm and Education Center. To do our part in reversing climate change, OUSD is dedicated to keeping as much waste out of the landfill as possible. And here at the center, one of the ways we are going to make this happen is by implementing our own composting systems. This video will outline how the center aims to keep compostable materials on site and reuse the compost in the garden and farm. Here we have some definitions to keep in mind during this video. Organics, organic waste, green waste, and compostables are all names for biodegradable plant-based materials that can decompose into compost. Food scraps is the name for inedible or uneaten bits of food that are left over from food preparation and consumption. Compost is fully decomposed green waste material that is ready to be added back into the soil. Below are some other keywords that will show up in this presentation. Due to how our society's infrastructure is set up, many of us live in open loop systems. But what exactly is an open loop system? An open loop system occurs when waste does not end up in the same place it was produced. If we do not sort our waste, all of it ends up in the landfill. This means that waste is not being recycled effectively, and that valuable resources, like compost, are traveling far from their origin and polluting our earth. In this diagram, you can see how an open loop system functions. The food comes from producers and then goes to the consumers. The consumers then create organic waste from this food and put it in a waste bin. If a sorting system is not set up, then this material would end up all in the landfill. Additionally, if a sorting system does exist, but folks are not sorting properly, then these materials are still destined for the landfill. Not only does this prevent our organic waste from turning into valuable and much needed compost, it also contributes to greenhouse gas emissions, because when organic waste ends up in the landfill, it cannot decompose properly and produces a gas called methane, a greenhouse gas that is 25 times worse than carbon dioxide. This is an example of an open loop system because where the food is coming from is very different from where the waste ends up. Next, we will look at how a loop system works when consumers sort their waste. If we sort our waste properly, then the amount of compostable material that ends up in the landfill will decrease. We, as a community, are improving our waste sorting, and this enables us to divert more decomposable materials out of the landfill, which helps our soils and is better for the environment as a whole. This diagram shows how the system works when consumers sort their waste. The food comes from producers and feeds consumers. These consumers then sort their waste into the appropriate bin, which is then transported to a waste management sorting facility. If minimal contamination occurs, then the compostable waste is transferred to a composting facility. But if there is too much contamination, sometimes compostable materials may still end up in the landfill. Once at the composting facility, the green waste decomposes until it is a mature compost and is ready to be bought by farmers in the Central Valley and our community here in the Bay Area. This is an example of a closed loop system, but it is much larger than what we want to practice here at the center. In this example, trucks are transporting materials over long distances, which contributes to greenhouse gas emissions. And the final compost product is of lower quality. Keeping compost on site means less transportation, more educational opportunities, and high quality compost coming directly from our own garden and farm. Next, we will look at how the center aims to achieve a small scale closed loop system. A closed loop system means that everything is circular and ends up where it started, and they are important for multiple reasons. Closed loop systems decrease the amount of emissions released from transporting materials to various sites, while also ensuring that compostable materials are kept out of the landfill. Additionally, they also serve as valuable action-oriented educational experiences and examples for our students and community. This is the kind of system we want to have at the center. In this closed loop system model, food comes from the center to feed students and community members. The compostables that are produced from this, along with plant debris from the garden, farm, and landscaping, will then be composted on-site and used to amend the soil in the garden and farm. This system provides the center with high-quality compost, which is vital for building soil health and resilience, both of which are essential for growing healthy plants and high-quality produce. Compared to the previous closed-loop system example, composting on-site also means fewer trucks on the road, picking up, processing, and transporting the compost to the waste management facility in Oakland and outside of Livermore at the Altamont Pass. Having a small-scale, closed-loop system on-site is also an excellent way to teach our youth about environmental sustainability. It will allow them to interact with a variety of composting methods, which can be taken back to their schools, homes, and communities. This example of a closed-loop system is what we are aiming to achieve here at the center, and we are excited to work with students in the community to make this a reality. On this slide, you can see a bird's eye view of the center and how we are planning to incorporate composting into our site. The organic waste from the central kitchen, garden, farm, and landscaping will be diverted into one of the composting systems here at the center. Once the compost is finished, it will be used in the farm and garden. The center's goals for on-site composting are educational and environmentally focused. We want to have multiple types of compost systems set up to demonstrate the different ways that people can recycle their organic waste at school, work, or home, and make use of this valuable resource. Here is a photo of the 4 bins we have at the center, clearly labeled and color-coded so that we can all sort our waste properly. The types of compost that we want to incorporate are vermiculture, an earth cube, a layering compost pile, and windrows. These are all types of composts that we will learn about shortly. The first composting system that we are going to implement is called vermiculture, or vermicompost, which means worm composting. Worms are able to eat most foods that humans can eat, like leaves, fruit, veggies, and some grains, but they cannot eat certain items like dairy, oil, citrus, onions, and garlic. Here is a photo of the worm compost bin at the center that will soon be in full production. Another type of composting that we are adding is a simple compost pile. Here is a photo of the compost pile that we recently started at the center by layering green and brown organics. Green organics are things like grass, green leaves, and food scraps, while brown organics are materials like dry leaves, cardboard, and wood shavings. This type of composting is called hot composting because the piles get very warm, and with this heat and the help of billions of microorganisms, the contents break down. Worm composting, on the other hand, is a type of cool composting because the worms do all of the work. This is a photo of our in-vessel composting system, the Earth Cube. It can compost items such as meat, dairy, bones, and bread, all types of materials that would not usually go in a school or backyard compost. The Earth Cube is a physically sealed container, which means that no rodents can get inside, and this also helps minimize the amount of odor that can escape. Okay, and finally, windrows. Windrows are long piles of organic waste that are turned by hand or mechanically, depending on their size. Windrows are similar to a classic compost pile because they both require green and brown compostables. But due to their design, windrows can accept much larger amounts of materials. This is because windrows can be as long as you want them to be, meaning that any excess compostables can just be added to the ends. Windrows are especially useful for composting larger woodier items, such as tree branches or fibrous plant stalks, which may overwhelm a smaller pile. This is a photo of a very large windrow and is a good example to understand their shape and size. As the center evolves, we hope to integrate these systems into other locations throughout OUSD and spread our passion for composting. To see these goals become reality, it will require the collaboration of everyone working and visiting at the center. This work is positively impacting our schools, our OUSD community, and the world at large, and our actions are creating a brighter future. So thank you for doing your part in supporting this system as it gets underway. And thank you for reviewing the center's on-site composting systems plans overview. We got this.